So I'm going to create a polygon plane for the basic shape of my tire tread. So polygon primitive, plane, and there's my tire tread. Now it's really important to snap these points to the grid. So I'll select these vertices, I'll hold X, snap it to the grid, hold X, snap it to the grid. I'll select these guys here and snap it to the grid. Okay? Alright. So now I'm going to go ahead and modify center pivot, and that's my shape. Alright. So I'm going to use the Insert Edge Loop tool. Found under Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, and I'll put one here. Whoa. So let's go into the Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop tool option box and reset that. I'm going to click on multiple edge loops, and number of edge loops is 2, so that's good for me. I'll click on this horizontal line, and it just put 2 edge loops. Alright, so now, so you can see those edge loops right there. I'm going to go to vertex mode, select these 2 vertices, and move them down. Okay, and I'm going to snap them to the grid, hold X, snap that to the grid. Set those 2, hold X, snap it to the grid, and I'm happy with that shape. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is select these 3 faces, okay? Control E. I'm going to change the offset so that they are a little bit more like they're coming like they're on the inside, and I'm just going to move it up a little bit, like so. And then I'll press Control E again. I'll move it straight up. And now I'm going to select 1, 2, 3 faces at the bottom and delete them. Okay. If I press 3 on this object right now, you're going to notice that it gets a little bit noodly, right? It gets all soft. But I want to have these hard edges on my tire tread. So what I'm going to do is simply use the Insert Edge Loop tool, and I'll go to the option box and I'll change it back to relative distance from edge. Okay, so I want this bottom edge here to be like a hard shape. So if I press 3, I see it kind of smooths out. So let me click right here. And when I press 3 again, it can't really see the difference just yet. If I click here and press 3, still not exactly what we're looking for, but I'm going to add all of these horizontal edge loops in first before I move into the vertical ones. So I add that one, and it's starting to look a little better. So now we're going to add the horizontal ones. So I still have that edge loop selected. I'm going to move it down a little bit so it's not so tight to the edge. I'll press Y, which is repeat previous command, and I'm going to add an edge here and another edge here. I'll add one there, here, right there, right here, and one more here. Since this is going to be the outside of my tire, okay, I think it's really important to pay attention to these edges right here. Oops, I forgot to add one more edge loop there. Okay. So if I press 3, it's the exact shape I want it to be, like this really linear kind of shape. If I press 1, it goes back to normal. Alright. If I press R, hold J, I'm going to snap those 2 vertices together, and I'm going to bring them out right here. Alright? I'll hold V and snap it there. I'll do the same thing with this side. The reason why I'm doing this is because I know that as soon as I start to create the outside of my tire, these 2 points for some reason start to make the tire look really really weird. I'm actually going to undo what I just did so I could show you what that looks like. So I'll duplicate this, I'll move it over here, out of sight, out of mind, and then I'll come back to that so you can see exactly what I'm referring to. So this is going to be the perfect example, and then I'll show you the not too perfect example after I finish this. Like I said, it should take a little less than 5 minutes, so I'm going to speed through the next few sections. So those are my vertices. I'm going to scale them in so that the spacing is good. Okay, now I'm going to save because I know how often 2018 likes to crash. Okay, so now that I have this shape, you can go back and modify it, add another edge loop in here, or not edge loop, but extrude in there, Control E, move it down, scale it down, whatever it is that you want to do. So when you press 3, you have, you know, like this kind of different shape. All right, so take that, go back, press 1. I'll press W, and I'm going to hold D, hold V, and snap it to, let's say, the outside. I'll snap it like right there. You see, so it's like right at that outermost point. So I hold D and I hold V, and I snap it there. All right, perfect. I'm going to press Control D. I'll hold V and I'll snap it over here. Now you can see that they align perfectly, right? All the edge loops align perfectly. And this is important because when I combine and merge, I want this seam to be perfect. Now, I just noticed something really odd after I changed the, when I did the extrude, I seen a few vertices or edges overlapping, so I'm just going to step back, Control D, hold V, perfect. All right, so these guys align, and now all I have to do is press Shift D. Oops. All right, so let's try this again. Control D, move it over, hold V, and then Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D. All right, look at tire tread, perfect. All right, so now I'm going to select these guys, go to Mesh, Combine, and then Edit Mesh, Merge, and now I'm going to go into Object Mode, and then Edit, Delete by Type, History. And if I wanted to, let's say, add another like row or seam down the center of this, I can hold Shift, double click that edge loop. Let's see here. All right, so these edge loops aren't. All right, guys, see I made a mistake right here when I was going a little bit too fast. It wasn't properly aligned, so Control D, I'll hold V and snap it there. All right, modify freeze transformation, Control D, hold V. Yeah, it's really important that these edges do not overlap. Control D, I'll hold V. So Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D. The way I realized I made a mistake was when I selected that edge loop. Instead of selecting an edge loop that went horizontal, it went around one of those shapes, which meant that when I merged it, it didn't merge it at the seam. Okay, so tire tread, mesh, combine, edit, delete by type, history, and then edit, mesh, merge. Okay. So now, when I go to the edge, I'll press F, so you can see I'm selecting that edge here. And I'm going to hold Shift and double click that edge. There we go, perfect. All right, so I just selected that edge. I'm going to press Control E, W, and then move this out like that. Actually, I'll move it over one, and then Control E, extrude it again, and then I'll select that same edge, Control E, I'll move it straight up in the Y-axis. Hold V to snap it to the height, Control E again, and then I'll hold X to snap it to that grid. Alright, so this is my shape. Alright, I'll hold D and V and snap it to that center. Alright, right there at the edge. I know I'm going to save it again. I'll press Control D and move it over to the X -1. Select both of these guys, mesh, combine, and then edit mesh, merge. So now what I need to do is bend this thing in half. Okay? Bend it in half. So go to deform, nonlinear, bend. And I know my channel box editor acts out, so I'm going to go into my attribute editor, click on the bend one handle, change the curvature, and it's not bending in the direction I want it to. So with that bend handle selected, I'll press E, which is the rotate. I'll hold J, which is the shortcut for discrete snapping. And so now that C shape is right down the center of our grid, I'll hold J again to discretely snap it like that. And last but not least, I'll change the curvature to 180. Now it doesn't match up perfectly at 180, so I have to manually change a few settings. So I think 188 is a little too much. 185 is, that's all right. 187 is probably 186. So that's 185.5. Maybe it's a little too less. 185.1. I could live with that. Some of you guys might try to dial it down to the T, but you have to remember you want to merge these edges. So I'll select that edge right there. It's kind of hard to see. Let's kind of move my, I'll press 5. Selected that edge. I'll go to the other side. So it's a little tedious. I'll hold shift, select that one, and I'll select that edge. Go to the top. Where is that seam? Where is it at? There it is. I'll hold shift and double click that one. And now what I'm going to do is hold shift. I'll hold shift, right mouse click and hold, and then I'm going to click on the word bridge. And there we go. So now that I have this shape, I need to delete by type history. So edit, delete by type history. There we go. It's a little wider than I want it to be, so we can scale it down like that. Okay. You can make the center of it a little more round by selecting vertices right down the center. And if I press B, that's the soft selection, and I can grow this soft selection. So let's say if I hold B and drag it all the way to the right, and I try to scale it, it's going to scale the entire thing. It's not what I want. If I hold B and left mouse click and drag, you could see that the influence is not as great towards the outer edges. So I'll scale it, and it's just going to scale that. Okay, so that works for me. And then the next step is to select the outer edges here. So edge loop, double click. Oops. So I'll zoom in a little more. I have the outermost edge selected. Press W, which is the move tool. I'll press R, I'll scale it down a little bit. You see? And if I move it out a little more, I can round it off. Okay. I'll press Control E again. I'll press R, scale it down. Press W. And since I don't have a reference, it's not going to be perfect. I'll press Control E again. I'll press R and I'll start to scale it down and then move it inward. Okay. If I wanted to add an edge loop on this flat part, I can. So Mesh Tools, insert edge loop, and I'll add one right there. And I'll press W to move or round that flat edge out, like so. I can double click that edge loop here, and then maybe leave that space for a rim, and I can press 3 on this object, and there you go. So we still have that really nice hard edge. Okay. If we want the inside of our tire to have that hard edge and not so round like that, all we have to do is use the insert edge loop tool. I'll add one here, there, so kind of close to the edge. It's almost like you're boxing that edge. I don't know, whatever another term to use other than like trying to clamp that edge. So there we go. See, it's a little nicer. And then you could use, depending on the type of rim that you have, if it's a hubcap, then I would suggest using the EP curve. If it's more of a stylized rim, then I would go about creating that a different method. But I'll show you how to create a hubcap. I think it's probably the easier way to do it. You can, one of two methods, right? I think the EP curve is easier, but for those of you that are not really familiar how to use an EP curve, let's just double click on that edge loop here. Control E, I'll move it. Okay. I knew that was going to happen. Thank God I saved it. So we'll let that boot up. And I'll open the previous scene. Save, save, save frequently, especially in 2018. It's always going to have a few bugs. What's the most recent? Tread 01. And I did not save where I left off, which is quite all right. I'll just show you how to create the EP curve hubcap. So I'll go to Create Curve, EP curve, and let's assume that this is our tire shape, right? So let me use a thicker marker. So this is our tire shape, and it goes down here, and we're looking at from side view, like that. I'm going to create an EP curve that is going to dip in, and then this is the top of our hubcap, like that. And then I'm going to revolve it. Create curve, EP curve. So let's do that. Create this shape. Return. There's my EP curve. I'll hold D, and then I'll move it to the center of that EP curve. I'll press F to frame in. Now if you want this manipulator tool to be right at that endpoint, hold D and then hold C. So now we go to Surfaces, Revolve Option Box. It's going to revolve around the X-axis. We want it to be quads, general per span number of isoparms. I have it at 3, and then we click Apply, and there you go. There's your hubcap. Alright? You can change the shape any way you want. It's still a polygon, so you can manipulate areas of that. And you can simply press Control E to add a little more style, a little more flair to it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You could bevel that edge if you want. So I'm just holding Shift, right mouse click and hold, bevel edge. Okay, so that's the end of the tutorial, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it.